What if I told you that instead of bringing a statement to court today, Mena arrived with a loaded weapon? No, we're not talking about a gun. Rather, we're talking about files that are so damaging and poisonous that even the judge had to, she said, take a break mid-hearing. Play the audio, Your Honor. She seemed calm, as if she knew the room was going to blow up, but a voice spoke through the speaker in a matter of seconds. Delete the records. I'll deal with Erica later. Where did this come from? How long has Erica been hoarding this? And why did she wait until now to go nuclear? Mendeecees turned white, and his lawyer almost dropped the papers in court. Because of what transpired next, which included producers yelling, fans sobbing, and one jury requesting to be removed, do you believe that payback is a form of protection, or that Erica is now stating, I'm done playing the victim? If these leaked papers are authentic, then Mendeecees is not only guilty, but has already completed. The courtroom was full, with every seat and camera occupied. If you haven't heard anything yet, stay right here. Rolling in quiet with all eyes focused on one woman, Mena, who was dressed in black as if she had come to bury someone or something. She sat down coolly, but with a folder so thick that it seemed a miniature coffin for Mendeecees' career. It began, Ms. Mena, do you have any evidence to present? Her lawyer said, yes, Your Honor. We're providing sealed papers that were previously protected by the NVA, including text logs, audio files, and video snippets pertinent to the boom. The room rocked, people leaned forward, and even Mendeecees appeared to have just bit into something bitter. What did she have, and why did she wait so long? Let's go back a moment. This wasn't, you see, ever since Erica started implying online that things weren't as they seemed, this was more than simply a DNA test. It wasn't even about whether or not Mendeecees was concealing anything. It was war-related, televised, and irrevocable. Fans appeared suspicious after she posted cryptic comments on Instagram, zooming in on a receipt and captioning the image of baby shoes with the words hope. Everyone assumed she was in mourning, but it turned out she was getting together. An anonymous Reddit account shared what looked to be screenshots of males contacting someone under the burner name Dre weeks prior to this court date. In those texts, he talked of shutting Erica down before she goes to court. The screenshots were rejected at the time as fraudulent Photoshop trolls, but today they were Exhibit A, and the courtroom sensed it. Erica leaned in as the judge allowed her attorney to reveal some of the evidence. You think I'm going to let her take everything? I'll delete the trail before she ever steps into a courthouse, said a voice from Mendeecees as he tapped the play button on a tiny gadget. The courtroom speakers cracked. Mendeecees' lawyer quickly objected, saying, Your Honor, we question the authenticity of this audio. It could be AI generated. However, Erica's lawyer grinned and said, We've had it forensically verified. 3 weeks ago, this was no longer a courtroom, but rather a crime scene, and the weapon was Erica's voice, her receipts, and her timing. The voice was time-stamped, GPS tagged, and verified by an independent lab. When the texts appeared, they were shown on a screen so big that you could see every punctuation mark. Mendeecees and a man who was just identified as C, possibly a former assistant, conversated about transferring funds out of joint accounts, using a ghostwriter to write legal responses, and how to spend everything before Mona discovers it. Wait, Mona? Yes, as in Mona Scott Young, the executive producer of Love and Hip Hop. Her name being mentioned made it obvious that this was more than just a baby. Mama Drama was a network liability. Meanwhile, millions of fans, bloggers, and conspiracy threads were going crazy outside the courtroom, with Twitter on fire, Reddit melting, Instagram lived full of grainy screenshots, and unprecedented responses from those claiming to know Erica's cousin and Mendeecees, who sat with his jaw locked and his eyes darting as the evidence came in. Erica's sister Omar Rosa was also seen wiping away tears. One reporter heard her murmur, He forced her to do this even though she didn't want to. The digital exhibit BA folder named Baby Proof Plan Final followed. It was a scanned contract, a confidentiality agreement signed by Erica Mendeecees and a third party whose identity had been obscured. The date was 3 weeks prior to the DNA test, and no one realized what it meant until the first image appeared. Erica had consented to the document, presented a side-by-side comparison of 2 DNA reports that had the same child's name, but different dads identified. That's correct. The original DNA paperwork her team used a sealed subpoena issued 2 weeks prior to retrieve the original lab findings directly from the source, and guess what? The father was labeled as Means on both, but in one version that was delivered to Erica, the report she received had been changed. His name had been changed to inconclusive, raising questions about who made the alteration, why, and how far this goes. A woman in the back row jumped up and departed in tears, and it was later determined that he's been lying to all of us, Mendeecees' cousin stated when questioned by the media outside. Erica's hands barely shook once when she uttered the words, "Under oath, I was attempting to shield my son from lies in an attempt to destroy him." The judge interrupted the proceedings to ask for a little break, but not before admonishing everyone that this court will not tolerate threats of tampering or any other interference with the evidence. And then suddenly there was silence. Erica briefly left the building, but Means remained inside, head down, surrounded by legal aid, whispering to his lawyer. But then something unexpected happened. A reporter was outside the courtroom when an insider sent a live message stating that there was more video, not just audio, available. Camera that purports to show Mendeecees at the lab on the day the fraudulent report was submitted, even though he claimed to be out of state. If accurate, this would indicate that this was not merely perjury, but deliberate fraud, and as the hiatus ended, Erica rushed back into the courtroom with her phone in her hand and whispered something to her lawyer. The judge took their seats, the courtroom fell still, and her lawyer stood up and said, "Your Honor, we have video." The judge leaned forward, eyes narrowing beneath rimless glasses. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Somewhere in the back, a producer whispered, "Cut to audio, this is going live. We are presenting surveillance footage from a private source that directly contradicts the defendant's prior alibi," Erica's attorney said, setting a thin black USB drive on the evidence table. In a lab parking lot in Newark, the day before the altered results were released, the judge questioned in a cautious but intrigued tone. Gasps were audible, unfiltered, and irrepressible. The screen lit up, the lights lowered, and it was said that he was Mendeecees. The timestamp shows the very day he informed the court he was in Atlanta recording a reunion special. He entered the building by a side door, wearing a hoodie and a dark cap pulled down. There was no entourage, no photographers, and no excuses. When the video panned in just enough to see his face clearly reflected in the glass door, his lawyer almost got up to protest. The room plunged into a deep quiet that made the playback sound like thunder. Finally, the defense remarked, "Your Honor, we contest the veracity of this tape. It may have been faked," but the judge raised a hand. "Let's take a 5-minute break. I want both sides to be ready for their next arguments." When the television went black, Erica lowered her gaze and spoke softly to her lawyer, Mendeecees. He reached for a bottle of water but missed it, letting his hand drop to the table, and his mother, who was sitting behind him, become limp, held her rosary as the turmoil outside the courts erupted. Bloggers were already posting breakdowns, exclusive mails captured on camera, exploding hashtags, fake daddy files, our Erica bombshell, a cotton cam, and a fan. One person remarked, "I defended this man because I believed in him," while another said, "She held this like a nuke and waited for the courtroom to detonate it, queen behavior." Then the internet went crazy when Mona Scott Young's verified account posted a single emoji. The judge went back inside and looked more serious now. But before we move forward, he said slowly, "I'm issuing a temporary gag order. Until these evidentiary concerns are fully resolved, no party may discuss or release any additional information about this case to the public. It's too late. The genie was already out of the bottle and it wasn't going back in," Erica said as she entered the stand, staring straight at the jury. "When I knew I was pregnant, she responded in a shaking voice. "I was afraid, but I thought we'd work it out together." Then calls stopped coming in. I asked for clarification, received bewilderment, begged for honesty, and received documentation from the courthouse. Mendeecees didn't look up as she listened breathlessly. I didn't want to come here with all of this, she went on. But when someone begins to alter, the prosecution then delivered the day's final blow in the form of a leaked email, which wasn't sent by Erica, but was purportedly received by and handed to the court's encrypted email by an anonymous third party. In it, a guy posing as CM, possibly one of Mendeecees' former business managers, discusses ways to postpone the DNA request until after the baby is born, recommending the use of emotional leverage as a strategy. Once the baby is born, her feelings will subside, so believe me when I say that the judge stopped reading aloud. This court is now considering contempt penalties if any tampering is proven, declaring firmly, and I advise counsel to prepare accordingly. Erica left with her head held high, accompanied by lawyers and an obviously shocked Omar Rosa, who mouthed, "You did." Suddenly, recess was proclaimed for the day. As they stepped past the media wall, Mendeecees stayed behind staring at nothing. He didn't move for nearly 5 minutes after the judge exited. One reporter noted his lawyer whispered, "We need a statement tonight." By dusk, the internet was in a frenzy, with anonymous TikTok accounts sharing modified lab footage with sound effects from horror films. Some fan-made modifications emerged, portraying Erica as a hero while others questioned her intentions. Then Mendeecees' first unofficial response appeared, which was a grainy Instagram story with white writing and no audio. Not everything you see is accurate. In the meantime, Erica's side acted quickly. Her PR team produced a statement saying that everyone was telling the truth. Fans crowded the comments with questions such, "What does that mean? Are you calling her a liar or not? Where's the real DNA test?" Brief statement. Erica came to court to seek peace, not mayhem, and only presented evidence after being silenced and obstructed repeatedly. This is about the truth for her and her child, and it may be strategic, but it's also about empathy. VH1 bosses are alarmed as proof supports Erica's version, according to a shocking headline published by TNZ the next morning. It seems that producers had examined old security tape from reunion tapings and found that Mendeecees had abruptly left the set on the day in issue. According to reports, one executive added, "We're scrubbing episodes right now." The fans weren't waiting, they were already delving deeply. In an attempt to demonstrate that the reunion film that was shown didn't correspond with the real events, Reddit threads titled "Erica was right all along" received 20,000 more votes overnight by cross-referencing wardrobe timestamps and backdrop props. Later that afternoon, probably the most startling turn of events occurred when a fresh tape emerged. This time, it wasn't released by Erica. Rather, it was the result of an anonymous voicemail drop sent to many gossip sites simultaneously. The audio was choppy and scratchy, but the damage was clean within. A man who is thought to be Mendeecees is heard stating, "If the story hits, I'll deny everything, just make sure she doesn't have a copy." As that narrative gained traction, Erica uploaded a mysterious video clip to her page. It included her holding her son and rocking him slowly while a gospel song played. For hours, fans were saying things that no one had dared to say before he attempted to erase her, played in the backdrop with the caption, "No more silence." People were no longer merely observing this controversy. They were actively involved in it. They took sides, created fan accounts, and began counting down the days until the next hearing. One user said on Twitter, she hung on to the question was not whether Mendeecees had lied, but rather how much more was there that we hadn't yet seen. The receipts were presented like a queen, and we waited until the courtroom had no option but to listen, because neither Erica nor the court was finished. The doors of the courthouse opened, and Erica returned with steely eyes, holding her kid tightly. The judge behind his bench adjusted his robes and gestured for the last steps to begin. The tension was palpable, with each mobile phone ringing and each liver stream counting down. Mendeecees had to answer or fold at this point, and his shoulders squared. Once wealthy and certain, he trembled a little. "Your Honor, before we go any further, I have a statement." He cleared his throat. The video that was shown today doesn't support what Ms. He paused, looking at Erica, and said, "I would never lie about my paternity or my obligations as a father. Mena says I was at that lab, but I was picking up a court document without changing anything." Following the hush defense counsel, we requested that the court take the circumstances into account. My client's heart was in the right place, but then the fatal blow struck, and we have evidence that a second USB surfaced. And some people outside yelled fraud while others whispered sabotage. The crowd was harmed, but even the judge scowled. "Counsel, are you claiming that the opposing side tampered with defense evidence?" The defense attorney sputtered. "No, Your Honor, technical difficulties. Your Honor, since the defense's own files are untrustworthy, we only rely on our confirmed audio messages and the previously shown film." Erica's lawyer stood without incident. He sat nodding once, as if sealing the case. Omar Rosa bit her lip in the back while Mendeecees looked around the room, eyes darting for oncoming rescue. His once loyal cousin sat stone-faced, no tears in their eyes, just a mute accusation. The prosecution next called in the last witness, a digital forensics specialist, was brief but accurate and equipped with charts of metadata timestamps. He described how the defense's new evidence had inconsistent signatures on every file that Erica's team provided. After he was done, the jurors exchanged worried glances, and one juror even took notes about possible misconduct. Then came the tearful testimony of a mutual childhood confidant and friend. Tillman described receiving private messages from Mendeecees last year in which he expressed guilt for taking his relationship with Erica for granted. His voice began to crack as he read the DMs, saying, "I fear I'll lose everything." The room shook at the unvarnished. Interesting, insiders claim that a judge-appointed third party will supervise the test, and leaks are not permitted. Deprived of their typical material, fans started making predictions about every scenario. Would Mendeecees have to pay support? Would they reunite? Would Erica's tearful expression return if the child wasn't his? The comments skyrocketed. This is the most we're all holding our breath, and that's precisely where we leave it, on the verge of truth, because when that sample hits the lab, everything changes. It's the most honest moment they'll ever share. Family Future, therefore, please let me know what I believe, that Mendeecees will finally accept responsibility, or will this DNA test be another drop your theories below bombshell? Let's find out who has the inside scoop. To be carried on in our special episode, DNA, the ultimate decision.